All right, you guys, we're live. We're live. We're ready for your questions. And so this week we didn't get a lot of questions. If you have some, go ahead and put them in the comment section. We'd love to answer them for you. We just want to make sure that you guys are successful. And so if you have questions, if you're curious about anything, confused about anything, just let us know. We are going to have a lunch and learn this Friday at the South Bowie Library. South Bowie Library on Hall Road off of Central Avenue. So come on out. We're going to go over the top 10 fundamentals that you guys need to know in order to be a successful real estate investor. We will have we'll have a panel, and so you'll be able to come out, network, ask the panel questions, things like that. And so the top 10 fundamentals that you need to know in order to be a successful investor this Friday at the South Bowie Library off of Hall Road. Shireen is in the house, Ralph, Karen. You guys have any questions, just let us know. All right, Keith, why don't you fire away? We're not going to be on no longer than, say, 30 minutes because we just
Okay.
didn't get a lot of questions.
Hey, I hope everyone had a good day, and so let's get going. So, Greg, Shireen has a question. She sent a question, and that question is: she wants to know, can you wholesale auction deals, and if so, how or what are your recommendations? Can you wholesale auction deals?
Yeah, so Shireen, absolutely. And so my recommendation on an auction deal, well, number one, you want to make sure that the first thing that comes to mind is to make sure that the buyer's name is what I call a generic LLC. So like the address LLC, because if you win the bid under Shireen Wilson, you can't wholesale that because the buyer has to be Shireen Wilson. And so you want you want to win the bid and assign the LLC. Let's just say it's 123 Main Street LLC or 630 Girard Street Northwest LLC. And so having done that, yeah, you can wholesale. Um, my preference would be for you to put the property under contract. Put the property under contract and have a cash buyer in mind before you even go to the auction, and just let them know. Um, let them tell you what not to bid over, and so that would be my preference. Now, typically, a cash buyer is going to either be at the auction themselves, or um, it's or they're going to have to go to the property to look at it themselves. And if they do that, they might as well bid on it themselves. And so, um, a buddy of mine made a lot of money wholesaling auction properties. But what he would do is he would actually go to the auction, put down the deposit itself, and then put it under contract, and then wholesale the contract and get his deposit back. And so the issue with wholesaling auction properties is the deposit. A lot of wholesalers don't want to put up that deposit, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. What I've done in the past is I'd wire that money so that they could go bid at the auction. They lose the bid, they wire it back. The last time I did it, the guy didn't win the bid, and it took him a few days, close to a week, to wire me my money back, which I didn't like. And so that's the main issue, is that deposit. When you win the bid, you got to put down a deposit. Even if you win a bid online, they're expecting that deposit uploaded into their account within 24 hours. And so you just got to know how to deal with that. But if you have the wherewithal to put down a deposit yourself and then wholesale it, it's just a lot easier versus finding a cash buyer. I tell you what not to bid over, and then I wire you or Cash App or Zelle you the money. So if you win, you can put the deposit down. It's kind of cumbersome. Um, it's it takes up a lot of time. And if I'm going to do that, this is not me, but if this is the mindset of a cash buyer. If they're going to go through running numbers, they're going to go through getting the deposit. There's nothing proprietary or there's nothing private about these auctions. They can just go and bid themselves. And so just keep that in mind. That's why my preference would be for you guys to find off-market deals where you're the only one. Most of the deals that I look at, I'm really the only one that's bidding on that property. They're calling me or I'm calling them, see if they're interested in selling their property or getting a cash offer. I may be one of two that they're investors that they're looking at. On an auction property, you could be one of 50 or one of 100 if it's like Hubzu or one of the online auctions. Typically at the auction at the courthouse, there's about 20, depending, depends, 20, 30 people there. And so you're bidding against a lot of people. And so my preference would be for you guys to do the marketing to get cold calling, social media, bandit signs, whatever that is, auctions. Like we went to an auction a week and a half ago. No, we didn't. We had a shadow event. We had a house tour about a week and a half ago. It was in the rain on a Sunday in Baltimore. We looked at about 2 or 3 foreclosures. The very first property, you guys, that was there, the very first property that we looked at that had a bunch of holes in the wall. One of our platinum coaching students actually bid on that property and actually won. They won the bid on the property that we met at. And so that would be my preference, is to get properties like that. For this ton of foreclosures, especially in Baltimore, that are great. All the ones that we looked at that Sunday were great deals. And while we're on the topic, we are going to be having another house tour on May the 20th, free for our platinum coaching students, the PG County foreclosure tour. I will be showing properties that you can buy. If you're not in our platinum coaching, I think it's only $197. And so we should have a link up for that pretty soon.
Yeah.
Another day or two. But hopefully, Shireen, I answered that question for you. You can wholesale auction properties. Make sure it's in an LLC so that LLC is easy to hand over or to assign. And then just make sure you have a good relationship with your cash buyer, so you can determine whether you're going to put up the deposit when the bid is won, or they're going to put that up.
So great. Based on that last activity with the wholesaler, does that make you scratch your head a little bit? Would you do that again for another person that had a deal, or would you be more reluctant?
Yeah, I'm very reluctant because, like I said, I think you kind of open the floodgates to a lot of wholesalers who are just looking at auction properties and say, "Oh, this might be a good one. That might be a good one." And now they're all kind of coming. And now now the cash buyers got to do their due diligence, and then now they've got to start. If they don't have the deposit, they've got to start wiring money to a number of different wholesalers, and it's a risk. Like, we all know each other, we all trust each other, but you just never know. I accidentally, as an example, wired one of my real estate agents a double commission. Their commission was $8,000. I accidentally sent them that $8,000 twice by accident. We all trust each other, no problem. They'll send $8,000 back. They never sent it back. And so, and it was someone that had been with me for a while. They never sent that $8,000 back. So you just never know. When it comes to money, you just never know. So Karen is saying, if you have a good relationship with the wholesaler, are you still reluctant? It's like I said, it's you send me a property today, I've got to go look at it, because in most cases the wholesalers don't look at it. So I've got to go look at it, or as much as I can. We'll see. I guess I'll take it case by case. Me personally, I'll take it case by case. But my preference would be not to.
All right, Greg, let's move. I got a few more questions. So Dana Lewis is asking, can a wholesaler go under a subject to contract, or does the cash buyer enter in agreement with the motivated seller?
So let me unpack that, because he asked me the question yesterday.
Okay.
I think the question is, can a wholesaler wholesale a subject to? And the answer to that question is yes. And so what the wholesaler slash buyer has to do is put together the subject to deal. So they put together the subject to deal. It's just like any wholesale deal. Instead of using our purchase and sales contract, you use a subject to contract. On that subject to contract, which I owe to you, Dana, you just put a generic LLC as the buyer. You put together, if you're the contract holder, you put together the terms of the deal, the terms of the subject to. You sign it. The motivated seller signs it. So you put that deal together, and then you wholesale that deal, or you assign that deal to me. We sign an assignment agreement saying that I will take over all the rights and responsibilities of that subject to deal, and for a fee, and we can put that on an assignment agreement. And so whoever found the property, who's ever talking to the seller, they just go under contract using the subject to contract instead of purchase and sales, and then they just assign that subject to the end buyer, the cash buyer. So it works the same way as any other wholesale deal. It's just that you're not going to use the regular purchase and sales agreement, then the assignment agreement. You're going to use the subject to contract, then the assignment agreement. So you just do all the negotiation.
Right. Then Dana has one more question, Greg. In the case where a couple owns the property, do both parties need to be present to sign the sales contract agreement?
Yes. If both people own the property, both people have to sign the contract. That's the easy one, Dana. They don't have to sign it at the same time, but they have to sign the contract. They've got to go to settlement. I mean, both parties have to sign. You can't sell a property up from underneath another owner of the property.
And so by default, when you're married, let's say someone comes into the marriage and they weren't on the property, they weren't on the deed, but they get married. And then afterwards, they want to sell the property. Do both parties still have to sign that sales contract?
No.
Okay. No.
Whoever owns the property, the name that's on the deed, they have to show up they have to sign. So a married couple, let's say I'm married, I buy a property, and then 3 or 4 years later I get married. That's my property. That's my property. When I go to sell, all those funds come to me. Now, if I die and I'm married, then it depends on what's in the will. If I put in the will that property goes to my daughter, then my wife doesn't get anything. But if there's no will, they die what's called intestate. Then yeah, then that property goes to the next of kin, which is the wife.
Okay. Greg, that's all the questions I received for this week. Although I got to know there's got to be someone on that has a question.
No, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
The 76ers are beating the Celtics by 9. We got more time to watch the game. Yeah. So Dana's saying he meant initially. So yeah, Dana, initially, who's ever going to be the wholesaler, and I'll call you offline, but whoever the wholesaler is, they negotiate with the seller, the subject to deal, and then they assign that to whoever the end buyer is. But we can talk offline. We'll have time. We can talk offline. And so, Keith, I'm going to put this up here. I think this question is for you. It's from Shireen. It says, could you and Keith do an example cold call for a potential pre-foreclosure? I know it could go many different ways, but I'd love to hear one. Okay. And so do you have an example of a pre-foreclosure?
Yeah. You want to role play? You be the person in pre-foreclosure.
Okay.
Okay. Ring, ring, ring.
Hello?
Hi, I'm Keith Bennett. I'm an investor here in the Fort Washington area with Bennett Realty Solutions. I buy properties with cash. Hey, Greg, I know this call sounds out of the blue, but I work off of records, and my records are telling me that your property at 123 Main Street, the property you have, it may or may not be in a pre-foreclosure situation. So I was just reaching out to see if you were aware of what the bank is telling us.
No, I'm not aware.
Okay. Have you been in touch with your bank at all?
I've been getting some things in the mail, and I know that I'm behind, but I didn't know I was in foreclosure.
Okay. So let me ask, is it your intention to hold on to the property, or is it kind of time for you to move on or move away? Have you been thinking about that at all?
Yeah, I lost my job, and I just don't think I can continue with the payment. So yeah, I'm ready to move on.
Okay. You know what, Greg? I know we haven't been talking a lot, but here's what I think we should think about. I think that you should contact your bank as soon as possible, just to see how far behind you are. Maybe get kind of a close to exact number. And then I'll give you a call back. I'll give you a call back tomorrow, maybe tomorrow afternoon, after you had a chance to contact the bank. And then I'd like to set an appointment. I think it's important for us to sit down. I have a cash buyer that's really interested in properties in your neighborhood. And I think that it'd be good for you to sit down with him. He's actually my brother, Gregory Bennett. No relation to you, Greg. Is
he tall, dark, and handsome?
Some would say that, yes. Yeah. Yep. But he would like to sit down with you and just explore some of the things that the bank may not let you know about in regards to stopping that foreclosure from moving forward, if indeed it is moving towards a foreclosure. We want to help. That's why I'm calling. This is not our first rodeo. We've helped out thousands of families here in the DMV with these situations. So what do you think about that? Contact your bank, see what's going on. And then when I call back tomorrow, I'd like to set an appointment maybe for the weekend coming up where we can sit down and have a conversation about how we can help you.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
So for me, so a couple things. For me, I'm going to set an appointment right then and there. I'm not going to wait and call back tomorrow. I'm setting up an appointment right now. And so you can call your bank, but are you available to meet tomorrow? And then I'm going to also see if they may be interested in a cash offer. I'm also going to tell them that we're going to help them. Number one concern of anyone selling their house that's motivated to sell, their number one concern is shelter. And so I'm going to make sure I tell them that we're going to help them. If they don't already have a place to move to, we're going to help find them a place to move to.
Mm-hmm.
There's no problems there. Now, oftentimes they'll move in with a relative, or they've already solved that. But I don't want that to be sort of a roadblock.
Right.
And so I'll mention that too. And then just kind of the cash offer. I always like to say that to let them know that we can close pretty quickly. So hopefully that answers her question. Kaylin is asking a question. Do we have any tips for setting up a system for virtual assistants? You want to handle that one?
Yeah, we do. So, and Kaylin, I can help you. We could take this offline, but we help out with maybe even helping you interview that person if need be, or doing a sample role play even before you hire. And then after they are hired, we can make sure that there's some training that they get. I also prefer, that person to have continuous role play sessions throughout the engagement as well. Now, most of the people that we contact, they kind of already know about the dialers. And so, and many of them know about the spreadsheets that we would want to see after a day of dialing, the total number of calls, the total number of hangups, voicemails. And so they would know to send that to you. And if not, we have template spreadsheets on what the VAs send us so that we can keep track of their progress. And then there's things like having your weekly meetings just to go over, successes and struggles, that sort of thing.
And then I don't know if you mentioned it, you probably did. And then really focus on the list.
Yeah.
Like what type of list. Yeah. And so to let you guys know, my number one focus now is on, and I say this to Kaylin, but to everybody, is we're in the process of building a virtual call center. And so I spent the better part of today just doing things for that, getting some of the right list and looking to see if I can get some cheaper virtual assistants, but also trained. And so my number one priority now for all of my businesses is getting the virtual assistants to run our call center. And so we recently, I'm sure we've mentioned this at a previous meeting, we recently purchased calltools.com, which is a power dialer. I think we mentioned this last week, which is a power dialer that it's honestly, it's the call center itself. And so with the power dialer, it dials up to 12, makes up to 12 calls at a time. You can pay for as many, what they call seats, as many people to be on that dialer as you want. You can set up the dialer to just make dials and the next person up just answers the phone. You can set it up that way, or you could have outbound calls where, people are making calls outbound, or the dialer is making the outbound calls for you. And so you can set it up any way you want. And so it's the power dialer. You've got to feed it with the right list. You've got to have the right people, the virtual assistants, and you have to have the right list to call. And then if all that is great, now you've got to have a system so that when your assistant is making these calls and the person says, yes, I'm interested, what do they do then? Are they going to send you an email? Are they going to load that up into your calendar? One system we use, Calendly. So they'll go ahead and put it on your schedule. In the past, when we were using Mojo, they would just send us they would book the appointment and then just say, I never, just like I was telling Keith, when it was role playing, we never let our VAs say, we'll call you back. We want our VAs, when they get somebody on the hook, just go ahead and schedule the appointment for whenever, because we could always call back and change. Or they can't have your Calendly. They can't have your schedule, your calendar, and they can just go ahead and book right straight to your calendar. Or they can do a live transfer. If you want a live transfer, they've got the person on the line. You can instruct them to do a live transfer right to you or to somebody else. And so, Kaylin, that's how you set that up. And I'm in the midst of kind of doing that. So we'll have different lists. Like we'll have an insurance list for insurance calls. Obviously, what we have lists for the investing. For our mortgage company, we have first-time home buyer lists that I got today. So we'll be loading those things up. And so all that will be on our power dialer. And so that's basically how you set the system up.
And it's also something interesting too is you can purchase phone numbers, and somehow, some way, they know that it's a phone number that is not flagged as a scam call. And so I've been learning things like, in call tools, that for every 75 dials they want you to switch, they recommend that you switch the phone, which it automatically does. So they've really got some real dynamite things to make you successful. And then above all else, when we have our VAs, even though they may be 10,000 miles away, we've got to let them know that they are the face of the company for which they're making their dials. And so that's also in the role play. And then that handoff to the cash buyer. We want to make sure that they know, every step of the way. So, but we can help you with that, Caden. Okay.
All right. Anybody else? I mentioned when we got started that we are having a lunch and learn at the South Bowie Library. First time at the South Bowie Library. It's a straight shot right up Central Avenue and Hall Road. I'm very familiar with that area. I lived over there in the Tall Oaks subdivision for, how long was I over there? About 13, 14 years. And so that was my first introduction to Bowie back in the 90s. And so I'm familiar with that area right there. And so we'll be at the South Bowie Library at 11 o'clock. We're going to go over the top 10 fundamentals that any investor needs to be successful. And so we'll have a panel. And so you guys try to attend. Keith, I think that's all the questions that we have. We're right at 8:30. Anybody else? And so one last thing I will say is it's still a great market to buy. I get calls. I got a call yesterday from a cash buyer looking for some deals. And so if you are looking to wholesale, find some deals. There's cash buyers out here, despite the interest rates. Interest rates just went up again 1/4 point. I believe it was last Wednesday. And so from what I'm hearing from some economists, they don't think that's going to go up anymore, but you just never know. But it's a great time to buy and hold. There's lots of great deals out here. We saw that when we went to that shadow event. The property that I thought would not get bidded on did from one of our students, and she won. So it's a good thing. All right, you guys. That's it. That is it. So take care. Hopefully we'll see you guys Friday. If you're interested in the PG County foreclosure tour, you'll get some information on that. That's May the 20th. And we hope that we find a property for one of you. Dana is on here. Carissa is on here. They found properties from a house tour that we had. Dana won in DC I'm sure it was over a year ago. And then Carissa, from a few months ago. Both are buying wholes, but both through house tours. And so we'll be doing one in PG County. Come out, maybe one of the properties that we show will be a great one for you to purchase. All right, you guys, take care. God bless. Hope to see you guys Friday. Have a great evening. Good night.
Good night, everyone.